So this week we are sort of doing a compare of planes to show just how much innovation comes out of war. Pretty crazy. It's also interesting to see the amount of change in just some time. But this is the Fokker M5 Driedecker. Driedecker is one wing, mono wing. Really, this airplane is not that much more than an ultralight today. But it was the very first plane ever built to actually be a warplane. So it had one 30 caliber machine gun. It could go about 85 miles an hour. It was all canvas wings that were hollow. And you're probably wondering about this thing. This was for cables that went down and supported the wings. So it had these steel cables that held it on top, and then steel cables from the undercarriage that held it down here and held the wings from folding up. So incredibly weak, not much for landing gear, not much more than like wagon wheels. And this is, to put it in perspective, this is 11 years after the Wright brothers flew the first airplane that they had this. So that's at the very start of World War I for the Germans. And then the D1, we have the D1, Fokker D1 Driedecker, which you've all seen it, but you've seen the bright red one. What's his name? The Red Baron, Richthofen. He was their best pilot. He was their best test pilot and everything. And he was also royalty. So he actually painted his bright red. And I think these guys had a lot of leeway with what their crews could do for ornamentation and stuff. They weren't all red, they weren't all gray, they could have stripes on them and things, so forth. Anyway, this airplane had 3 wings and could go about 115 miles an hour, so quite a bit faster. It could go twice the 20,000 feet, whereas this one could only go to about 10,000 feet. It had 2 machine guns. And it actually almost had 4 wings because it got some lift, I believe, from this the undercarriage for the wheels. It was very maneuverable plane, but none of these things were tough. This one, the wings would come off it from time to time, and something to keep in mind: these guys were kind of thought of as knights when they went up and fought, because there was you could maybe get through a crash landing. They put padding in it. That was all they had for saving somebody, but there was no parachute. No one had parachuted yet. So if the plane caught on fire, you were just gonna burn up as it went to the ground. Anyway, pretty scary job to have been a pilot during the First World War, but this was about the most advanced plane that came out of the war. And this was what they started out with.
So how do they steer? I mean, these, you have flaps that move.
Yep.
And here you have
you had flaps on this, but you also had the tail section. But I mean, this thing would kind of fly like this, and it wasn't very stable. And really, what they initially were using this thing for was just to take off, fly up, and maybe throw grenades down into the trenches.
Only one person.
Only one person in both of them. Both planes weighed empty. They weighed less than 1,000 pounds. I mean, even this most advanced plane was mostly made out of wood and screws and none of the type of stuff that we would use now to build an airplane. A lot of canvas on them. This did have some metal on it, but this plane I don't think even had any metal in its framing. So.
You're missing a pilot in this one.
Yeah, pilot doesn't quite fit to scale right in there. So.
Okay. This little dude, poor guy.
Yeah.
No visor or anything.
So there it is.
Good job, Boo.
Thank you, Boo.